Y'all start hollering like that, I'll preach all cotton picking night. How's that suit you? Around about 10 o'clock after you see my mom and George limp out of here, and a few of you others will be going out of here. And the rest of you will be saying, that was good, you can stop. It's always a privilege and a pleasure to be here at Calvary Baptist Church. Always consider it an honor to preach here. And I was with the preacher today at lunch, and we were talking about back when the time when he was coming here as a pastor, and he's been here now nearly 10 years. And it seems like such a brief time to me that he came, and I was thinking about that and thinking about some of the things even he was saying tonight about the purchase of this home across the street, and how God does things in his good time and in his way. And I'll talk to you just like family just for a moment, if I can. Those of you who were here during that time can remember that the church had gone into a difficult time for a while. Pastor Caldwell had been here for 27 years, and he really had done a good job for 27 years. But he'd gotten ill, and because of his illness, a lot of the dynamics there were gone, or there were some very confusing dynamics, we might say. And it was easy for me at that time. When we were looking for a new pastor at this church, I remember thinking to myself, Pastor Caldwell with his illness, it might be that he should have quit 5 years ago. It was easy to think that. But now if you'll go back and look at that and think about that now, it might be that Cameron Giovanelli wasn't ready 5 years earlier. You ever think about that? It's easy sometimes for us to think about things in a timing we like. We were talking about how, as a missionary, the worst time for me as a missionary is when churches change pastors, because that's when missionaries lose support. Boy, when a church changes pastors, that's when the missionaries lose their support. And that's how we lose more support than any other way, is when a church changes pastors. He wants to have a different program, slash the budget, and the missionaries go right out the door. So I'm always worried when churches change pastors, but because of that, I've seen over the years churches select pastors again and again and again, where the same pastor goes and kills a church and kills a church and kills a church, and I'm thinking, man, I hope that don't happen at Calvary. Calvary's under stress, But you know what? God had God's man and God's time for Calvary Baptist Church. And every time I come here, I'm so happy that God sent Cameron Giovanelli our way. Now, 5 years earlier, he might not have been ready. So God had his timing. And we had to go through some tough times too, and we had to go through some learning and some growing and some experiences that we might not want to repeat, but I'm hoping we learned something from them. Amen? So I was thinking about that today, and I want to share with you how thrilled I am that God has really brought a man. I can remember in the interview process how he shared his tremendous vision, how he was dynamic, how he was enthusiastic, and had an enthusiastic zeal for the ministry of the Word of God. And that's what really impressed me, that he didn't come in here, well, maybe I can pull it out of the ditch and make it go. That wasn't his attitude at all. It's like, man, look at the potential. We're surrounded by people. We can fill the church up. Let's go, And it was tremendous. So I thank God for that every day. And I was just thinking about that today, thinking about that transition time, how easy it was to go and say, why didn't Pastor Caldwell quit earlier? Because this guy wasn't ready yet. And so God had his work in his time for our church. And he has that for our lives too. Amen? Now some of you say, why are Wesley and Mel in a home right now? Our schedule is so varied and so crazy. Sometimes I'm not sure when I'm going to come home. Finally, I'm going to actually be a real grandpa. And so my daughter, Lauren, is going to have a baby in May, Lord willing, and then Rachel's going to have a baby in June. Is that right? So we're going to have 2 grandbabies in 2 months. And so we've been practicing. We've got some kids always running around the house. Our house always has some toy on the floor for me to trip over at night in the dark. And you got to have that. You got to have something to help you fall down the steps. You got to have kids around. They keep you young, and they do aggravate you. That's true, but they do keep you young. And anyone that ever talks to me on the phone will know. If you ever talk to me on the phone, I'll say, hold on a second. Hey, stop doing that. And sorry, I got a kid in the house. We've been practicing. Now we've got some real ones coming. They're going to be our grandchildren. So I'll be back on the field by the 17th. There's a theory that, we always like to theorize with babies, that Lauren will have her baby by then. And so I'll be heading back to the field, see the baby, and take off. And my wife, it was very important to her and Lauren that I see the baby. I don't really, frankly, I'm like, give the kid 3 months till they look real, they look natural, they look... I've seen an awful lot of newborns, man. There's some ugly little critters when they're born. Did you know that? A kid get born, he said, look at that little sack of varicose veins. I don't want to look at that. Let the kid ripen a little. Put him in the sun or something, and then show him to me when they're cute. Them cute baby pictures you see, there ain't newborns. Those cute ones are 3 months old or something, And but I might see the kid before it's born. Anyway, I'll head back, and then eventually I'll come back and see the other one. But that's actually why we're home. Very, very brief trip. And we'll leave town tomorrow. We'll go down and see my son Jonathan for a couple days. Then we'll take off from there. We'll go down to Shreveport, Louisiana. Lauren and Daniel are working on their master's degree in missions. They want to return back to the island where we are as missionaries. And so they're there working on their master's degree. So we'll go down there with them. And, I thought that I didn't have to put up with any more pregnant women, but I forgot about my daughters, and now I have to again. But pregnant women are beautiful, and I love them, and they're great. And then I'm going to go see him and say hi and fly away. Amen? That's the way to handle that, man. At any rate, I did want to tell you why we're home. Looking forward to having the teens from Calvary Baptist Church come down. We've got a lot of things planned for them. I don't yet have the list of the ones who are not supposed to come back. There's some, they say, of this list, lose this one or lose that one. That can be done. We can work on that for you. Make sure you send me the list. Those who need to have a more traumatic experience than others, because we can arrange traumatic experiences. But we are looking forward to having them, letting them see some things, do some things, maybe some things they're not used to seeing and doing, new odors, new flavors, the whole thing. And so we're really, really looking forward to having them come down and see the ministry, and hopefully give them a burden to come back there as missionaries, that they can come there. And we need more missionaries on the field. That's really what a lot of my message is about tonight, and hopefully we can get them interested in coming down there and being missionaries. Now look in your Bibles right where the pastor read in Ezekiel chapter 33. We're going to use verse 8 tonight to jump off here in our message. We're going to use verse number 8. The Bible here says, when I say unto the wicked, O wicked man, thou shalt surely die, if thou dost not speak to warn the wicked from his way, that wicked man shall die in his iniquity, but his blood will I require at thy hand. Now what's this talking about? The prophet here uses an example, a vision that the Lord gave him here, talking about how cities in those days, the city-states there, how they protected themselves from enemy invasion during that period of time. It was very common for different groups to pillage other groups, to raid other groups. That's how they increased their wealth. That's how they defeated their enemies. Sometimes they'd raid them for food. Sometimes they'd kill everyone in a city and take who they could alive as slaves and kill all the fighting age men. Go and steal a bunch of women to have extra wives, and many, many different things they would do. But they had a warning system, and the warning system was that you put watchmen out, and they would give those watchmen a trumpet. And when you saw a band of these raiders, be it a large band or a small band, the raider would then blow a trumpet of alarm. He would sound the alarm, and the people that heard the alarm were also supposed to spread the alarm. And basically they're saying here is that there's going to be a guy there to sound the alarm, to tell you that the enemy is there, that death is there, that destruction is there. And if you'll hear the enemy and you'll take heed to that warning, you can be saved, you can save yourself. But if you don't, well, then you'll perish. And he took that and brought that back over really to preaching the gospel in verse number 8. In verse number 7 and 8. When he talks about preaching the gospel for men's souls, and when he talks about warning the people from their wicked ways, to bring this down to us today, this is you and I with our responsibility to preach the gospel to a lost and dying world. And if the world will hear us and will heed the gospel, the world can be saved. Now, if the world does not hear, then they'll be lost. But the point is this: if we preach the gospel and we give them the gospel, then we have relieved ourselves of that responsibility at that point, because once they hear in an understanding way the gospel of Jesus Christ, if they reject it, then their blood is upon their own head. But if God puts lost people in front of you, and God puts lost people in front of me, and we do not give them the gospel as opportunity presents, and that person dies and goes to hell, then their blood will be required at my hand and at your hand. Now that is a tremendous responsibility. And that's what the Bible is talking about. You know what the Bible is talking about? The Bible is talking about you and I have to have a burden for lost and dying souls around the world. And we need to realize that we have not just a burden, but that burden should come about because God has given you and I a responsibility to win this world to Jesus Christ. We are responsible, and He is going to call us into judgment. He is going to require their blood at our hands if He has put lost people in front of you and I, and we have not won into Jesus Christ. Now, I'm here as a missionary, and I preach about people around the world that are lost without Jesus Christ. And listen, there are billions of them who need Jesus Christ. One of the biggest groups in America right now that we are just completely ignoring are the Muslims, the Islamic people. You know that in the rest of the world, if they get converted in most countries, they'll kill them. But there is a country where an Islamic person can leave the Islamic faith and come over and accept Jesus Christ as their Savior, and they won't be killed. They are free to convert, and we are free to persuade them to convert. And in the one country in the world where we are free to preach the gospel to Islamic people and they are free to convert, we are virtually ignoring that group of people. Now, people talk about this problem of Islamic terrorists in America and bombings and all these other things and that mentality that comes with studying the Koran and growing up in that type of religion. And what can we do about it? Oh, let's throw them all out of the country and all. You know, that's not the solution. You know what the solution is? Win them people to Jesus Christ. This is the country where we can knock on their door, hand them a gospel tract, and say, throw that prophet Muhammad out the back door and come and accept Jesus Christ. And you know what? They can't throw us in jail for that here. Now, you try that in Turkey or Iraq or Iran, many other countries. And if you try to persuade someone to leave the Islamic religion, they'll throw you in jail, and if they do convert, they'll kill them for converting. And yet here we have millions of those people who God could use to evangelize their families back in their home countries. And we just ignore those people. That's not even the point of my message. But it's a very good example. How you and I, as the watchmen on the wall, have to cry out to the wicked, how you and I have to preach the gospel, how you and I have to have a burden. I want people to have a burden for lost and dying people in Santo Domingo, Dominican Republic. I want people to have a burden for the millions of people that are there in Port-au-Prince, Haiti. I want people to have a burden for the people in all those mountains on both sides of the border. I want people to have a burden for the 90,000 people in that valley where I live and where the church is there in Harabacoa. But you'll never have that burden for all those people that you will never meet if you don't have a burden for your next door neighbor. If you don't have a burden for that person you work with, if you don't have a burden for your own lost family members who come and see you on holidays and you're afraid to bring up politics because you might offend them. I asked one guy about that one time, well, do you ever invite your family to come to church? Well, you know, I don't want to push them. Push them? Where are you going to push them to? Hell number 2? They're going to hell number 1. You ain't got nowhere to push them to. Maybe they're waiting to be pushed. Maybe they're waiting to be pushed. You got to figure out, you got to pray and ask the Holy Spirit to guide you and lead you in what you can say and what you can do, because everybody responds to things differently. Many, many people respond to that gentle tug of love. Every now and then you meet that one person who needs a good hard kick to get them going. There's a few of them out there too. Pray and ask God to give you wisdom. You'll have zeal, but zeal with wisdom. If you do not have a burden for the people that are right here closest to you, that lady at the store where you go and buy things every week, that woman at the bank where you go every week, if you don't have a burden for the people that you meet at your family reunion, if you don't have a burden for the neighbors that you wave to there on the street, then you're never going to have a burden for that person there in Port-au-Prince, for that person in Santo Domingo, for those 90,000 people in the valley where we live. The greatest way to have a burden for worldwide missions, be it in Africa, be it India, or be it down there on that island where we are, is to have a burden for lost people right here at home. And to help you have that burden, I want you to understand you have a responsibility before God to warn them and preach the gospel to them. Amen. There's an old saying. They say the light that shines the farthest shines the brightest right here at home. Now you think about that. You think about that. All you guys that go out there and jacklight deer, you know just what I'm talking about. Amen? That's Baltimore Beast Feast talk there. That's the Beast Feast talk. All you guys that are out there spotlighting at night, you know that the light that shines farthest shines brightest at home. Thank the good Lord, when it comes to soul winning, there's no such thing as poaching. Amen? You can win them all. And there's a lost and dying world really waiting to be won. Our burden to win this lost and dying world to Jesus Christ should be greater than the burden of this world to make a buck. But in most cases, it just is not. You tell the world there's a new gold mine, and people will flock to that gold mine. They will live in terrible conditions. They will work hard all day under the hot sun, picking up heavy mud, a hip deep in ice cold water, so they can get a little bit of gold. They'll live in the midst of danger, in the midst of thieves. They'll eat garbage for food. They'll drink mud for water. And they'll live that way to get a little bit of gold. But when it comes to lost souls, we got to have our comfort. We got to get away from that. Our burden for lost souls should be greater than their burden. You tell someone there's a new oil strike, men will go out. They'll live on these oil platforms for months at a time in all kinds of danger of explosion, danger of storms, danger of drowning, live amongst a bunch of wicked people. They'll do it up here in the oil and gas fields here in the United States for that almighty dollar. But when you talk to people about souls, people aren't willing to leave their comfort zone to win people to Jesus Christ. And we got to change that. Amen. It's not been 2 weeks ago, I had church service. Our lights for the church service were 4 oil lamps. 4 oil lamps. I always call that Plan D. We got Plan A, B, C, and D. You got to have all those plans. You know, the power had been off in the street for days. The batteries hadn't been recharged because there had been no power. Couldn't get the generator started. Plan A was the street power. Plan B was the inverter. Plan D was the generator. We couldn't get it started. Plan D, let's go to the oil lamps. Let's have church. Down there, no one bats an eye at that, you know. Oh, I have oil lamps today. Okay, let's have church. Now, we'd smoke this place up. We'd put enough lamps in here to light it up, wouldn't we? Big place like this, you know what you do when you're in a real big place? You put one lamp up here and everybody else sits in the dark. And that's not fun to preach in because the bugs are all over the preacher at a time like that. Let me tell you, you're preaching, you're going. People are down there going, wow, the preacher has the DTs. No. It's the bugs. You know, sometimes we lose that urgency that we should have to win this world to Jesus Christ. You got to have that burden here before I can help you get that burden overseas. I remember one case where we had a man, a guy called Nathan. Nathan come to me between the morning service and the evening service. The morning service, at that time, we were in Polo in the morning. We were out in Alonsa in the afternoons. He come to me and said, Pastor Wesley, we got a guy up here, Platon, who is lost and he's going to die tonight. And we got to go up here and win this guy to Jesus Christ. And I said, well, Nathan, look what time it is. Man, we got church out there at Alonsa here in just about an hour and a half. We got to go out that way. He goes, listen, them people in Alonsa already saved. This guy's going to die tonight, man. He won't wait. We got to go up here tonight. I said, well, what about all those people? Don't worry about those people. We'll get there when we get there. Let's go up to Platon and win this guy to Jesus Christ. And he felt an urgency to win that guy to Christ. And we went up that mountain road, and we found the guy in a little shack just about as wide, just about as long as a bed. And the guy was laying there in that shack, and we won that guy to Jesus Christ. He was 92 years old. We won him to Jesus Christ on on Sunday night. He died on Tuesday. Just talk about just getting in the door. But you know what? Getting in the door is still in the door. Amen? Because Jesus died for his sins too. And to talk about aggressive soul winning, when Nathan was talking to that guy, trying to wake the guy up out of his stupor, Nathan was going, wake up, you're going to die tonight. That's soul winning there, brother. You're going to hell. I brought the preacher to you. You've been living wicked. He's shaking the guy. I'm going, man, don't hurt the guy. You're going to kill him before I talk to him. But the guy got saved. You know why? Because Nathan had a burden, and I kind of felt ashamed. I'm thinking, man, his burden was greater than my burden. I'm thinking, I got to keep the schedule. Nathan's going, forget the schedule. The guy's going to die. We got to win him. Where's our burden at? I want to take that to jump off to let you realize that we need to have a burden, and then help you realize that this world, that we're in, needs Jesus Christ. And the world is lost and dying, and sometimes it's so easy for us because we continually associate with a group of Christians and with a Christian family, with all the activities. It's easy sometimes for us to kind of distance ourselves from the world and no longer see them as they are. Now, Jesus was speaking in the book of John chapter 4, and in verse 35, he says, "Say ye not, there are yet 4 months, then cometh the harvest. Behold, I say unto you, lift up your eyes and look on the fields, for they are white already unto harvest." This world is ready to be saved. This world wants the gospel of Jesus Christ. I can't tell you how many times on the mission field I have had people come to me and say, "Will you start a church in our community?" And I have to say, "Well, no, I can't." I have other missionaries call me, say, "Brother Lane, listen, there's a lot of Haitians down here. Come over here in our area and start a Haitian church in our area." I said, "No, I can't. I don't have enough time. There's just not enough days in a week or hours in a day for me to go start another church in your area." One time when I was at the church in Alonso, we had repainted the building, and I had painted the name of the church on the side of the building. And I went up there. I wanted to take some pictures of the building so I could post them and let people see what we were doing. And I had gone up there, and I had parked my vehicle, and I was standing out there in the street, and I was kind of walking, trying to get different angles, and I was snapping pictures and looking at them, trying to do. And there was a couple of drunken Dominicans walking up the road. Now, the church in Alonso was a Haitian church, but it was on the Dominican side of the border. And it's not very far from the border. A bunch of Haitians and Dominicans all live up there all together. But this was actually a Haitian church. And these guys were staggering up the road together singing, just like something you'd see on TV, a couple drunken Dominicans staggering and singing. And they stopped and they watched me taking pictures, and they said, "Pastor Wesley, we want to talk to you." And I went over and I said, "What do you need?" And man, they hugged me, with their old, they had a lot of rum on their breath and so on. And they hugged me and told me they loved me, and it's always good, to get a good drunken hug every now and then. And so they told me how much they loved me. So and they said, "Pastor Wesley, will you get us a Dominican church too? Got this Haitian church, and they need that, and we're happy for you. But look at how we live." Now, these guys were drunk, and they knew they were lost, and they knew they needed the gospel. They said, "Look how we live. We live so wicked. We don't know how to live. We need someone to show us what the Bible says we ought to. Look at us, man, we're awful." And I'm like, "Yeah, you guys are awful." They're going, "Yeah, we're awful. Build a church for us." I call that my drunken church request, Even in their drunken state, they realized they needed the gospel. They know they needed a church. They know they need the light of the gospel. And the world wants the gospel. And there's a lost and dying world out there that really is starving for the gospel. And so often we'll bang on the same door 16 times, where you're out there banging on that door. "Hi, I'm from Calvary Baptist Church." And the people come right outside and say, "Oh, you're from the church. Please, please get off my porch." Yeah. That's what they say. We'll go back to that door 16 times. When there's a whole world out there going, "What about me? I need the gospel too."
Oh, that's good, brother. Come on.
I went out to look for an area to start a church in Okai. And in the Okai area, what I do there on that side of the island is I gauge where I'm going to start a church by how long it takes me to walk to the next church. Now, most people there, they don't have cars. They don't ride to church. They walk to church. And so I'll go to a church. When I'm going to think about starting a church in an area on that side of the island, I'll go and I'll walk back to the next Baptist church I can find. And I don't care if it's a Southern Baptist church or if it's some generic Baptist church that I don't know who they are, but if it's a Baptist church, I assume they're preaching the gospel. Most of them are, thank goodness. But I'll walk because most people there will walk an hour to do just about anything. They'll walk an hour to borrow a cup of sugar. There's nothing there for them to do that. They want a soda pop, they'll walk down there for an hour, buy the soda pop, and walk home. So I walked for an hour. So I was looking for an area to start a church, and a man came I was standing in a little tiny, it was the equivalent of what would be a hotel, but it just had little rooms. It was for the guys who drove trucks there in that area where they could spend the night before they head back to Port-au-Prince, and that's where I was staying. And a man met me there, and he said, "I'm a businessman here, and I'd like to have a church out there in my area, and I'd like you to go out and look at this piece of land." So we went out in my Jeep to his piece of land, and he showed me his piece of land. And he actually had a group of people sitting out there waiting on me when we got out there. And they had some logs on the ground underneath a shade tree. And we met together, and they said, "Yeah, we'd like to have a church here. We really would like to have a church here." And it was right, the next yard over there was a Catholic church. And I said, "Well, what about that Catholic church?" And they said, "Well, we know that's from the devil. That's not preaching the gospel. We need someone who's going to teach us the Bible. And we only go there because that's the only thing we got. We want a real church going to teach us what the Bible says, not teach us to worship idols." Imagine the people, they know that. They're lost and they know they're lost and they're saying, send us a light down this way. And I said, well, let me walk back to the next church and see how far it is. So I sent that businessman with my Jeep back up to the hotel, and I started walking back toward town, and it was only about 40 minutes to the next Baptist church, a 40-minute walk. And so I finished walking. I walked all the way up into town. It took me a couple hours to get up there in town. I got up in town. I met the guy, and I told the guy, listen, you know, because he had told me when we went out there, he said, if you'll start a church here, I'll give you this land from that post all the way down there. He was growing sugar cane out there, big sugar cane field. From here to there, to there, to there. I'll give you all this land. He was waiting for me at the hotel with the papers to give me the land for that church. I got there and I said, listen, brother, I'm not going to start a church there because it's only 40 minutes walk to the other church. And so, you know, I don't want to build a church right across the street from someone else. You know, it's a 40-minute walk. That's just next door, for crying out loud. He said, what's wrong? Is it not enough land? I own all that land. I'll give you as much land as you want. Come and start a church. I go, no, I'm not going to start a church there. I'm going to find an area that's further than that to walk to. It's got to be an hour or more walk to the next church before I can. Now imagine if we did our churches that way here. You want to do an experiment? Go home and get on Google Maps or Google Earth and bring up any city in the USA. Bring up Dallas-Fort Worth area and click on and just type in for the search Baptist Church. And so many of them little things will pop up on there. Little push pin thingies will pop up on there all over the place. You'll have to zoom way in because you can't even see the map. And yet we got a world that's dying without Jesus Christ, who wants the gospel and can't get it. And you and I are responsible to win them. You know, sometimes it's not God wanting you to go. Sometimes it's God wanting you to win that next door neighbor because God wants that next door neighbor to go. But if they don't accept Jesus Christ as their Savior, they'll never go. We think about the old guys of times of old like D.L. Moody, Jonathan Edwards, these famous old preachers who caused great revivals. You know, there were a whole bunch more of them that didn't get saved because someone didn't go tell them about Jesus Christ. I believe that. There's a D.L. Moody for Haiti. There's a Jonathan Edwards for the Dominican Republic. But there's 15 million people on that island, or 16 or 18, depending on whose figures you read. And you got me and a couple other schmucks like me down there trying to get it done, and we ain't enough. And that brings us to our next part, over here in Matthew chapter 9. These are the three verses I wanted to bring out to you tonight. Matthew chapter 9, verses 37 and 38. It says, but when he saw the multitudes, he was moved, as in verse 36, he was moved with compassion on them because they fainted and were scattered abroad as sheep having no shepherd. Then saith he unto his disciples, the harvest truly is plenteous, but the laborers are few. Pray ye therefore the Lord of the harvest, that he will send forth laborers into his harvest. I got to tell you something. There's more and more missionaries retiring every day. I've been on the field now for nearly 25 years. Maybe I have another good 10 or 15 years left if I don't do something, get myself killed first. And I've made that effort a couple times. The Lord didn't see fit to have me up there yet. The Lord said, no, not yet. And then after that, I'll be gone. A lot of old missionaries that are retiring every year. Some missionaries are going for shorter and shorter terms. Missionaries used to go for 4 years, for 10 years, for 12 years. Now missionaries are going and coming back after 2 years. And we don't have enough time. We don't have enough missionaries on the field to meet the needs. Not only are more missionaries retiring every year that are my age and older, but more and more missionaries, fewer and fewer missionaries are going to the field every year. They're going into other things, going into other types of work. A lot of times they're going into other good things, other good humanitarian works or good jobs here at home, or they're going on church staffs here at home, but they're not going off to the mission fields. People ask me sometimes, Brother Lane, what do you need more than anything else on the field? And people always think I'm going to get spiritual with them and talk about, well, I need prayer. Amen. Let me break spiritual with you for a minute. I need prayer. Oh, I do need prayer. Or they're going to think I'm going to ask for money. Well, I always need more money. I spend all my money every month. Every month money comes in, I spend it all. A lot of times I go into debt. Sometimes I got to take 2 or 3 months and say, I just can't do nothing. I got to settle my hands and pay off everyone in town that I owe. Sure, we need money. But if you had all the money in the world for me, you couldn't do anything for me because I'm out of reach sometimes. You know, there was a time when I was off in the desert one time in Haiti. I had gone off in the desert, my vehicle broke down, and I was out in the middle of nowhere in this big salt flat desert with a broken down vehicle. My motor mounts had broken and my motor had flopped over sideways in my Jeep. And I was sitting over there on the shady side of my Jeep thinking, now what am I going to do now? I'm out here in the middle of nowhere. If you had enough money to buy me a brand new Jeep at that moment, you couldn't have done nothing because I was completely out of touch and out of reach. No internet, no telephone, no cell phone, no nothing. Yeah, I need prayer at times like that. I do need prayer. But it's not prayer that I need more than anything. It's not money than anything. It's not even wisdom. I need wisdom. Every situation I get into on a mission field, I need wisdom. You know, sometimes you get into a situation and it's time to get your back up and get that mean look on your face and talk rough and bluff your way through it. Sometimes you see a situation out there and you realize, well, now this is just as good a time to run as any. You need wisdom to know which time is which, you know. Can't just always charge in and say, well, I'm just going to trust God. Sometimes God's saying, hey, it's time to run, dummy. I need wisdom, sure, but that's not the biggest thing I need. You know what I need more than anything else on the mission field? What this verse tells us right here. Pray ye therefore the Lord of the harvest that he will send forth what? Laborers. That's what I need. I need more warm bodies on the field. I need more people on the field. I need more young people like the young people in this church, more young married couples, more teenagers who can commit their lives to Jesus Christ now. Before you got a bunch of baggage in your life. Oh, man, at this point, I'll tell you, I'll take anybody at this point. I'll take old people, crippled people, divorced and remarried 6 times people that have been in jail and back out of jail. I'll take you. We've got to have some more warm bodies on the field. But the best ones to get are those young people who don't have a bunch of baggage yet. Who don't have a bunch of commitments yet, who aren't attached to a house and aren't attached to a job, aren't entangled with the affairs of this life that are just necessary for us to live. And we get entangled with those things naturally because we have to live and we have to survive, but then it's difficult to disentangle, to go off to another country. I need more warm bodies down there on the field. You know, the Jehovah's Witnesses and the Mormons are killing us down there. The Jehovah's Witnesses bang on my gate every week. I was telling Brother Troy's Sunday school class this morning, they come bang on my gate, I go out there and tell them, listen, you want to come in the house and talk to me? Here's the rules. You come in, sit down on the sofa and be quiet, and I'll teach you the Bible. That's how it works at my house. Well, brother, can't we talk about it? No, there ain't no talking. You be quiet and listen, and I'll teach you the Bible. That's how that works at my house. Now, if you want to do that, you can come in. If you don't want to do that, and of course they don't, they go on down the road. There's so many Jehovah's Witnesses in my little town that they have a Haitian congregation, a Dominican congregation, and an English-speaking congregation. There are over 400 Jehovah's Witness missionaries from the United States and Canada in that country. There are over 300 Mormon missionaries from the United States in that country. And I'd be lucky if I put every kind of Baptist and independent, wingnut and generic and everything else together, if I could get 50 guys that I could say are preaching the gospel down there. Is it any wonder they're killing us? Every time somebody else comes down to that country, every time I can get a new missionary in there or a new missionary family in there, you know what they bring with them? They bring something with me you can never give me. They bring another 24 hours a day because they got 24 and I got 24. I can only get 24, but they bring their 24 with them. They bring their 7 days a week with them. They bring their life experience with them. They bring their perspective with them. They bring a different ability with them. They bring a different personality with them. The fact of the matter is there are some people, believe it or not, I can't even understand it, but there are some people who just won't respond to my personality. I just don't understand. I talked to myself about that for 30 minutes in the mirror this morning. Never come to an agreement. But you know, a lot of times there's somebody who will not respond because God does use our personalities. There are people that might not respond to me, but they'll respond to that other guy who comes. That other guy who talks different, who interacts with them differently, who has a different life experience that he grew up with and is able to interact with them in a way that reaches their heart for the gospel. I need more people on the mission field more than anything else. Now, I want you to think about this. That island we're on, 16 to 19 million people, depending on whose figures you read. They always give you different numbers. They don't really know, because I've never seen anyone go back there and count yet. So they invent these figures. But we know there's millions and millions of people. But there are whole cities that have more people than that whole island. Places like Mexico City, cities in China, that have more people than we have on the whole island. Now there I am, myself and my wife, beating our brains out, running back and forth between two churches in Harabacoa and the capital to try to keep them going, trying to start new churches. And in the meantime, we're trying to go over to the other side of the island and try to get things done in Haiti. I was thinking the last time I was in Haiti, I was over there unloading that container of Bibles. And then the day after I unloaded the Bibles, I was meeting with preachers over there about the different projects that we're doing, the pastors' homes we've built and the churches that are still being built and so on. And I was meeting with these different pastors about their projects, and I was thinking to myself, how ridiculous is it that they got one goofy white guy like me down there running back between two different countries, running back and forth between two different cities, when really we need to have another couple of hundred missionaries down there. That's what we need. We need more warm bodies. It's really ridiculous for me to be down there doing that, when we have America full of people who know the gospel, intelligent people, educated people, healthy people, willing people, people who are great to do athletics and do all kinds of sports, but they don't want to go down there because they might have to walk a mile. Well, that's just dumb. I need people like people in this church who are willing to surrender to go to the mission field. I need your mile, and maybe God put somewhere else on your heart, because what I'm telling you is true all over the world. Imagine a country like India with 1 billion people. 1 billion people. And nearly every single one of them need to have the gospel of Jesus Christ. All of Asia, with the hundreds of millions of people, very little gospel light. Africa, which we think of all the missionary efforts in Africa, and yet most of Africa, spiritually, is still a dark continent. South America is still, generally speaking, locked in the grips of Roman Catholicism and idolatry, locked in darkness and witchcraft. And we sit in the comforts of our churches.
Come on, preacher, come on.
I really need Americans. I'm looking at my work there on the field. You know, I've been there all these years, and I'm looking at my work on the field, and I'm thinking to myself, if we don't get more missionaries down here, I don't know what will happen eventually, because one day I'll be gone. The other missionaries that I know down there that are good missionaries, they'll be gone. And if we don't get more missionaries down there winning the people to Jesus Christ, the country will be lost. We have a responsibility to warn the wicked from their ways. I appreciate every dollar that Calvary Baptist Church gives. You people have been very good to me, very generous with me, and I do appreciate it. But I need more people who are willing to make that commitment to say, you know what, I'm going to go a different level. Instead of just giving my money, I'm going to go out there, put my life on the line. I'm going to go out there and have a different life experience. I'm not going to live vicariously through the missionary programs I see on the screen, but I'm going to go out there and I'm going to live that life, and I'm going to preach the gospel to these people in these jungles, to the people in the slums in the cities, in the border areas, in the remote areas, and I'm going to bring the lost to Jesus Christ and establish churches for God somewhere else. Amen. People are willing to give their lives for Jesus Christ. There's a song that you've heard many times. It says, my house is full, but my fields are, what is it? My house is full, but my fields are empty. And I got to tell you, that song is still true today. There's less missionaries out there than we've had in many, many, many years, and there's fewer going. More coming home. But there's not fewer people in the world. There's not less need in the world. There's not less desire for the gospel in the world. There's more desire. There's more hunger. There's more people. There's more lost souls. And fewer people out there preaching the gospel. You know, if you're here tonight and you're not saved, you should ask Jesus Christ to come in your heart and save you tonight. But if you're here tonight and you are saved, you need to look at your life and say, God, can you use me? Can you use me? Don't wait for God to send a lightning bolt down from heaven. Don't wait for God to send an angel down from heaven with a gold-plated invitation to have some dramatic vision like some of the things we read about in our missionary books, in our preaching books, where there was some kind of a tremendous, traumatic experience. But instead, be like the prophet in the book of Isaiah that heard the call of God, that heard God saying, who will I send? Who will go for us? And the prophet said, God, here am I. Send my sister. Is that what he said? Huh? That's what we do. We need to say, here am I, send me. God takes volunteers. He said, who will go? I need a volunteer. Isaiah said, right here's one. I'll volunteer. We need more warm bodies down there on the field. That's what I need more than prayer. I need that more than money. I need that more than wisdom. I need that more than materials. I need that more than Bibles. I need people down there on the field who can get out there and preach the gospel. You don't have to work with me. I wouldn't blame you if you don't want to. I don't even want to. The other day I grabbed myself by the collar and threw myself out of the house. But I need you down there working. Preaching the gospel. Young people. Older people. You know, we've had people go to the mission field after they retired. Get 20 good years out of them down there on the mission field. Work hard teaching children, preaching, work hard building, helping missionaries do their work. We need people on the mission field. Let God speak to your heart and be the one that says, Lord, here am I. Send me. Let's bow our heads and close our eyes tonight. Maybe tonight you're here and you've never accepted Christ as your Savior. This whole missionary thing, this whole going around to spread the light thing might be a little bit mysterious to you because you don't know Jesus Christ as your Savior. You don't know that you're saved. If you don't know that you're saved tonight, come down front tonight and let us pray with you and show you how you can get saved. But if you are here tonight and you're a Christian, evaluate yourself right now and say, God, will you use me on a mission field? Maybe God will speak to your heart tonight that you can surrender your life. You're not too young to do it. I surrendered when I was 14. You're not too young to surrender your life to the full-time service for the Lord. Don't let people tell you you're too young. Boy, now's the time to make that decision when you're young. Say, God, send me to another country. God, let me preach the gospel. Come down front and pray. Make a decision for Christ tonight. Come down and ask Jesus into your heart if you're not saved. If you're not saved, come over here and get my attention. We'll get an altar worker to pray with you. If you're not saved, we'd love to see you get saved tonight. If you are saved, come down here and say, God, what can you do in my heart? How can you use me? Ask God to give you that burden for that next door neighbor. Come down here and pray. Ask God to give you that burden for that one that you work with. Ask God to let you see a lost and dying world, millions of people who have a hunger for Jesus Christ. God wants to use you. Come down here and pray and ask the Lord tonight to help you. Make a decision for Him tonight.